All right, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to this week's FNB App Academy. I am Karabo Mohole. Always excited to be here. Now, as you guys are well aware, this show we're working very closely with the Johannesburg Business School at the University of Johannesburg to bring you guys an incredible course that covers both digital skills, entrepreneurship, and as well as app development. Now, the last time, Devon gave us an amazing lesson on Module 4 of Digital Skills and Entrepreneurship, focusing on the 21st century work readiness. Now, in that episode, we covered topics 1, 2, 3, and in today's episode, we're going to be covering topics 4, 5, and 6. All right, so without any further ado, let's head back to Devon for today's lesson.
Welcome back. My name is Devon Parbu, and we are in the middle of Module 4, discussing the 21st century work readiness capabilities. And in the previous lesson, we discussed the 21st century professional communication skills, how to build a personal brand. In today's lesson, what we're going to be covering are 3 items such as the gig economy, your money, building financial literacy, and then how do we stay safe online. And there's some cybersecurity principles that we're going to be incorporating into our businesses that can help us protect ourselves as people, as businesses, but then also our clients and our clients' data that we collect in order to, sell our products and services much more effectively into those businesses. So let's dive into the gig economy. These are the following learning objectives that we're going to be uncovering, explaining how the gig economy lets us earn from global clients regardless of where we live. We're going to compare the major freelancing platforms and make sure that we can choose one that fits the products and services that we want to build or the skills that we have and the goals that we want to achieve. We want to build a freelance profile that converts from title and overview to portfolio, rates and reviews. We're going to price our work at a market relevant rate and secure your first reviews without underselling yourself. Penultimately, we're going to receive international payments. I'm going to show you how we can manage the taxation laws applicable to that there from a SARS point of view and the obligations for managing foreign income. And then lastly, we're going to manage our time, deadlines, and clients load using free tools and simple rules. So why does freelancing matter for entrepreneurs? Whether it's you trying to build your portfolio and sell the skills that you have to multiple other markets and use freelancing platforms as a distribution channel for you getting your skills in front of clients and businesses that are looking to leverage those capabilities, or whether you are looking for a freelancer to assist you in building a product or service. This is what the data is telling us, right? That in 2024, we had 1.5 million South Africans actively working on freelancing platforms. But if you're asking yourself, what did they generate during the course of that year in terms of revenue? 4.8 billion rand is the size of that market. So that was the amount of money earned by South African freelancers on international platforms in 2024. 43% of South African freelancers cite flexibility as their primary motivation. So they're able to choose the times, locations, and workload based on their capacity. Right? Why does this matter for you as an entrepreneur? Freelancing platforms give you access to global clients from any city or township in South Africa. You earn skills-based income that is not limited to a local market condition or economic downturn or geographic location. And then lastly, the gig economy allows entrepreneurs like yourselves to test ideas before scaling out, before investing a lot of your time and effort into the product build, or from a capital perspective. You're able to stress test this idea that you might have, build the capital required in order to scale it out, and then develop a client base before committing to a full-time venture, which oftentimes could be seen as a much more higher risk than freelancing, right? So what does this landscape look like? So we spoke about 4.8 billion rand being generated across global freelancing platforms. What are those platforms that exist? I'm going to take you through 5 of the platforms rather. And the first two are Upwork and Fiverr. What are they suited for? Right? Upwork is suited for, it's the largest global freelancing platform, and it's best suited for professional services such as copywriting, design, creative design, development such as website development or coding and those sort of things there. Virtual assistants, consulting as well is another service that's been offered on Upwork. It's competitive because it's the largest global platform, but it's very high paying, so you can secure high paying clients on Upwork. Fiverr is a project-based platform that's ideal for creative and digital services, very strong for design, for copywriting as well, video editing, and social media. This platform is really good for building volume quickly if you're looking to generate multiple clients very quickly and convert from lead to deal in a very short time, a very short sales cycle. Fiverr might be the platform that you want to explore in order to ensure that you generate volume very quickly. TopTal is an elite platform for what we would argue is the top 3% of talent globally. It's best experience for developers, for designers, and finance professionals. Very rigorous. It has a very rigorous screening process. But once you get through that rigorous screening process, in order to be an active contributor on the platform, there are premium rates that now become applicable to you. You can determine your own rates on that platform. All right. People per hour is very strong in the UK as well as in European clients. If you're looking to break into that environment, People per hour might be the platform that you want to pursue. It's great for creative marketing services and more accessible than TopTal, with a very solid earning potential. And then lastly, we've got freelancer.co.za, which is a local platform, South African specific platform for local freelancing opportunities. It might offer lower rates than international platforms, but there's no currency risk and there's also lower competition from international freelancers that might be able to extract more value from their clients. All right. So what's important? What's the key recommendation here? Let's start with Upwork and Fiverr. Upwork is better for ongoing client relationships. Fiverr is better for building a portfolio of completed projects very quickly, and then you can scale out from there. right? The critical milestone is first, is what's most important. And that critical milestone is to achieve your first client on one of these platforms so that you get recommendations, and you get reviews, and you start building rapport and trust with clients. And the minute you start doing that, you are able to then build some content, a content strategy that elevates your profile and that improves your ranking capability across your social media channels, as well as across these platforms here. Right. So we've created an Upwork or a Fiverr or a TopTal profile or any one of those profiles, or we've established the platform we want to choose rather, first and foremost. How do we then create a profile that helps us to convert a lead to an actual deal? You want to add your title that's specific, skills focused, searchable, such as professional copywriter for South Africa, financial brands, and having something of that nature, something very specific and focused like that, outperforms just, I'm a freelancer. Right? It doesn't tell you whereabout you're located in, doesn't tell you what sector of the industry you work specifically with. It just says I'm a generic freelancer. So try to be very specific, very skills focused, as well as searchable. Next, you want an overview. You want to ensure that your first two lines are visible without clicking, right? So you don't want someone to click on a button that says see more without actually getting an answer. So your first two lines are crucial to ensure that you are able to attract a lead and able to work that lead from there. Then you want to identify 3 to 5 items that make up your portfolio. Right? Strong samples that are not just a list of items. Right? You want to make sure that your 3 to 5 heavy hitting samples are surfaced first and are searchable first. If you have no prior work, create demonstrable samples of your work, something that people can see that, okay, these are concepts that he's working on or she is working on that we can expect. So this is the quality of the output that we could expect, even though this individual might be new on the platform. Select the rate. Identify, let's start at the market rate, identify where you fit in. You might want to start slightly below the market rate so that you can attract more clients, but don't start at the lowest, right? Don't start too low because underpricing signals low quality, and oftentimes clients don't actually go for what's called the low ball price point. You want to go for mid-market or slightly below mid-market, and then from there build up your portfolio to ensure that you can offer a premium rate from there onwards. In terms of your skills, add both your broad skills, like we spoke about earlier, copywriting, and niche ones like copywriting within B2B small businesses or financial brands and so forth. And that oftentimes means that you are very nuanced and very specific, but you're also quite broad within a particular sector, a particular industry. And then lastly, reviews. Your first reviews are very crucial, right? So you want to make sure that as soon as you complete a project, you request a review from your client and you have that review represent the quality of the work that you've demonstrated and that you've delivered. All right. Offer a small discount for your first 2 or 3 clients for an honest review, and then you build that into your cost base of the business, but never ask for a specific rating. Right. So that's the structure of having a profile that converts, especially on a freelancing environment. You might want to leverage your AI thinking partner, your large language model, to help you construct your profile by giving it possibly your CV, possibly examples of what your portfolio looks like, the type of skills that you leverage, and how to structure a title that is specific, skills focused, and searchable. So we're on the platform, we've created a profile. The platform helps us generate local and foreign currency. How do we manage generating foreign currency, considering that we have an obligation to report against our taxes on income that we earn both from a personal and from a business point of view. If you're earning foreign income or foreign currency, but you're living locally, naturally there's an advantage, right? Because of the currency exchange rate. If we're looking to the west or to the further north into Europe, we're either going to be operating in USD or euros or in pounds potentially. So earning 500 US per month from a single international client is equivalent to approximately 9 to 9,500 rand at the current exchange rate. The same skills that earn roughly around about 6,000 rand locally can earn you almost 2 to 3 times that amount internationally. So it's important that we look at these complexities or these opportunities that we might have by operating on a foreign currency platform. But how do we collect the income, right? So there are applications that we can use, such as PayPal. It's one that's used quite extensively. There are 2 others there that we could use, but PayPal is widely accepted. Oftentimes it has a higher South African withdrawal fee, but largely, especially as we modernize our financial ecosystem and infrastructure locally, like for instance, we could use PayPal to Uber. Many other platforms are accepting PayPal payments, so the withdrawal is not necessarily a final step in the payment gateway processes, but we could also use Wise and we could use Payoneer, which are widely acceptable for all South African freelancers. So that is collecting payments and how do we get those payments into our bank accounts. What is the SARS obligations? So there are 4 points that SARS requires you to do. It's all foreign income earned by South African residents is taxable. That's one, that's the first obligation. Secondly, we need to declare foreign income in our annual tax return, whether that's from a personal income tax point of view, if you haven't registered a business account, or business, if you haven't registered a business yet. But from a business point of view, it's also identifying, where that income has come from. So it's foreign income that needs to be listed on our tax returns. Keep all records for all platform payments, all currency conversions, and transaction dates. It's important. You need to keep those records for up to 5 years to ensure that it's auditable for that period of time. And then if earning consistently, register. If you are earning on your personal income tax number consistently, consider registering as a provisional taxpayer with SARS. That would ultimately mean that you need to submit your taxes twice a year, in August and then also in February. Managing our time as an entrepreneur becomes a valuable asset. And why do I say that? Because if we are on the likes of Fiverr, that attracts a lot of volume, there's only one of us that have to sift through the work and deliver the work, because delivery determines the level of trust and rapport that you build with clients and ultimately leads to repeat business and customer retention. So what can we do to manage our time and not just our clients? We can time block. So set focus time in your calendar and adhere to that focus time so that it gives you an opportunity to set specific hours per client or per project and execute against that. Use a productivity application like Notion or Trello, which are oftentimes free, in order to capture your thoughts, to create that second brain that we've uncovered in module 2, so that you are able to manage each project on their own, and we have one board per client so that you are able to visibly see exactly the progress you're making and how far you are from concluding that particular project, and identify any blockers that are hindering your performance. Leverage Toggle, a free time tracking tool that you can use to price accurately in the future. So oftentimes what Toggle does, or some financial applications and accounting platforms also have, are these project management applications that are embedded in the tool set, where you're able to start a stopwatch as soon as your time boxing starts. So as soon as your focus time starts, start the stopwatch, and that will help you to price your product if you're pricing by time and material, especially from a freelancing point of view. That will help you to price more effectively in the future. Google Calendar or any Outlook calendar as well can help you protect your deep work slots, like client meetings. And then lastly, set a 2-hour rule. Your focus time or your deep work time should always be 2 hours. That helps you to focus and get into what I call the flow of work in a dedicated manner to ensure that you're able to deliver. What are the common mistakes that we have to avoid? Don't underestimate the project time. Oftentimes we guesstimate how much time we'll need for a particular project. That guesstimation leads to you underestimating the amount of time that you will need to allocate to a particular project. Use your guesstimation and add about 30% extra buffer onto that. That helps you to under-promise and not over-commit yourself. Set a no payment milestone. So always get at least 50% upfront to manage your cash flow for the balance of the project, so that you are able to manage your cash flow and your profitability, and you don't use you don't allow your costs to creep into and exceed your profit margins. Don't ignore admin time. Ignoring the amount of time you need to spend on admin will end up meaning that you haven't reconciled your finances, as an example. That means you might have missed reconciling your bank statements to ensure that you're, from a taxation perspective and an accounting point of view, that at the end of every month, your balance sheet matches your bank statements. So invoicing and revisions take at least 20% of your 20 to 30% of your total day and total project time. So allocate that amount of time to every single project that you're working on to ensure that you do not ignore the amount of time that you need to perform any admin. I've just mentioned some of the financing activities, but there are many others. And then another common mistake that we find is we don't raise our rates whenever we have either repeat business or when any complexities enter in, like inflation or any other currency exchange rates changes. We don't adjust our rate based on the market conditions. So review your rates every 6 months to ensure that your portfolio always grows and you manage your cost base of the business. So as we wrap up this topic, what are the key takeaways that we can evaluate, take stock of, and remember? Skills-based income is not limited by your location. I often use the words location is meaningless, especially in 2026. That you can be in South Africa and you could be earning from a company in Mauritius or for the US or across Europe or in Upper Africa. 1.5 million South African freelancers earn 4.8 billion on international platforms in 2024. Choose the platform that fits your goal. If you're looking to grow your portfolio aggressively, Fiverr is probably the platform that you might want to choose. And there's no necessary risk to using a local platform either, right? So freelancer.co.za has really no currency risk associated to that. Create a profile that converts, but on specifics. So don't create a vague profile. I showed you exactly what you need to use in order to create a profile that helps you increase credibility and help you move from lead to deal and then convert that deal. Start at the market rate. Don't start at the lowest point. Don't lowball your clients. Rather start at the just below the market value. And then as you accumulate more clients, you increase your market value, increase your price point to get to a premium rate. Earning in foreign incomes is still taxable by South African law. It's important that you keep your records, that you declare your foreign income, and register as a provisional taxpayer once earning capacity becomes more consistent. And then manage your client and manage your time rather, and not just your clients. Make sure that you add buffers in, both from a productivity perspective, the amount of time that you will need for each project, but then also for the amount of time that it takes for you to do admin work, and then invoice 50% upfront as a prerequisite for all project work. So as we wrap up this topic for the lesson, I want you to think about these three questions. Think about the skills you have and the work you've concluded, or if you haven't concluded any work, think about the concepts that you can develop so that you can publish them onto the platforms. Which of your existing skills would clients in London, New York, or Dubai pay for tomorrow? Think about how you would actually get access to that information. How would you find out what these type of clients would be looking for? Which platform fits your goal? If your goal is to generate volumes of clients very quickly, which platform would that be more suitable for? If your plan is to have fewer clients but offer a premium rate, which platform would that look like? And then also, if you're looking for local clients as opposed to international clients, what type of platform would you want to choose? Because it's all associated to the goal that you're looking to achieve. And that would then direct you to which profile for which platform you need to build first. And lastly, I want you to think about how many hours a week you can realistically protect for gig work and the amount of freelance work that you can perform. And what will you stop doing to free up that time? In this topic, we're going to dive into building financial and business literacy. It looks at your finances. And most businesses fail not because of bad products or bad services, but because of poor money management. So we're going to dive into how do we identify how do we recognize rather what revenue is? How do we see the difference between cash flow and profitability? What does financial literacy mean for a small business owner? What does that look like practically? We're going to separate business and personal finances and set yourself a fixed monthly salary. Especially if you're earning consistently, you're going to identify what is a salary that you can extract from your business to ensure that the business maintains some float, and at the same time you're able to cover any personal expenses. We're going to build a 10-minute daily habit to ensure that you constantly stay ahead of the end of the month crunch, so to speak, when it comes to reconciling and your accounting requirements. Invoicing and payment collections, professionally, how do we set the terms and conditions and deposits as opposed to chasing overdue accounts. We're going to describe our basic sales obligations that we want to keep on record. And then lastly, we're going to read a sample profit and loss statement, a sample P&L, and work out how to calculate the gross profit margin to ensure that you know exactly how to evaluate the costs of your business. So what can't you afford not to know? There are a few ways that you need to evaluate the finances of your business to ensure that you develop an understanding around how to run the money aspect and the money portion, the money management of your business. 1 in 10 South African adults, and this is on a personal income level, 1 in 10 South African adults demonstrate adequate financial literacy in running their own personal finances or running a small business. 82% of South African small to medium-sized enterprises fail to cite cash flow mismanagement as the primary cause of failure. 90% of all business owners who track their finances daily report much better financial decisions. And they've got clarity around the finances of their business, so they're able to invest, they're able to channel more money towards paid ads or marketing or sales endeavors and so forth. And so what does financial literacy mean for us as entrepreneurs? This means that we are able to differentiate between cash flow, meaning that the money flowing through the business, flowing in and out of the business, and profit. They are not the same thing. Profit is what's left in your business at the end of the month after you've paid the expenses and your taxes. Whereas cash flow is the revenue that's come into the business and flowed out of the business as a result of the running costs of the business. Keeping business and personal finances separately is vitally important. You want to make sure that you manage what you pay yourself, especially from a management of an expenses point of view. Being able to read a basic income statement and understand what it tells you, that helps you understand exactly where your money is going to. Understanding your pricing, whether you price, the price that you set for yourself covers the costs of the business only, or whether you've built in some profit for the business as part of your pricing strategy. And then lastly, knowing the basic tax obligations and keeping your records that satisfy SARS. It's important that we recognize that financial literacy is not becoming an accountant. Yes, there are some accounting capabilities that you need to be aware of, but financial literacy is not accounting. It's the ability to understand your business well enough to make better decisions. So you don't need to be a mathematician. That's ultimately the point on financial literacy. What you need to do is you need to be curious about the finances of your business to ensure that you are really able to make better decisions financially. So there's one single rule as far as financial literacy is concerned to ensure that you protect your business. And that is separating business and personal finances. And it's the most damaging mistake that we do is to think that we can manage them together. Mixing your business and personal money makes it impossible to know whether your business is profitable, whether you can manage cash flow, whether you can apply for credit, or whether you comply with SARS audits. It also makes it far too easy to borrow from the business and never pay it back, because you've got the login details for both your personal finances and your business account, right? So keep it separate for that. So why do entrepreneurs resist this? This desire to keep it separate? There are a few reasons. The first is that we often feel like because our business revenue is irregular or inconsistent, we aren't able to extract a traditional fixed salary from the business. A solution for that is to set yourself a low fixed salary, one that simply covers the cost of your management or cost of your expenses, personal expenses, and top up on a quarterly basis to ensure that you raise that income to the point where you are able to generate a regular business income. The second reason is I can't afford two accounts. And the solution for that is that the FNB business account has 0 monthly fees. So that then helps you only manage one account or pay for one account, which would then be your personal account, right? Thirdly, you might think that it's just too complicated. So I'm going to keep everything, just lump sum everything into one account. 2 accounts, 2 separate banking apps, it's simply not that complicated. You manage them separately in that way. You'll do it as soon as the business grows. And oftentimes it's something that many entrepreneurs mention. The solution is that building bad habits takes a long time to break. And you want to make sure that you set the right habits up front so that you are able to leverage the benefits of a clean financial ecosystem that helps you scale your business as you grow. So there are 4 practical steps that you can leverage to help you maintain this habit of separating your business and personal finances. Open a dedicated business banking account. You set yourself a fixed salary for every month. Do not have ad hoc withdrawals. In the event that you do make ad hoc withdrawals or payments or dividends from the business account, keep stock of that so that you can reconcile the financial statements at the end of the month. All business income that goes in, all business expenses come out, no exceptions. And then lastly, keep all business receipts, whether digital or paper, keep them at least 5 years. That's an obligation that you have to set for yourself, because SARS can come and audit your business within 5 years of a particular time frame. So make sure that you keep all documentation, whether digital or paper, for at least 5 years. So how do we distinguish between cash flow and profit? Cash flow, so very simply put, is the money that comes into your business minus the money that goes out of your business is the cash position that you find yourself in. So it's the actual movement. So the cash flow of your business is the actual movement of money coming in and going out of your business bank account at any given time. And it tells you whether you can pay your bills right now. So it's the net amount of cash and cash equivalents being transferred in and out of an organization. Profit, however, is the revenue of your business minus the costs of running your business. That equals the profit. So whatever remains in your bank account after you subtract all the costs of running the organization or running your business from the total revenue that you've attracted, the invoiced value that you've attracted over a period of time, that tells you whether your business model is sound. So it's the measure expressed as a percentage of how much net income is generated from every single dollar or pound or euro or rand that you've accumulated from a revenue perspective. Now that we've understood how to determine our cash position, whether we're able to pay our bills at that particular point in time, in terms of our cash flow, we've understood how to how to calculate our financial position from a profitability point of view. We've also delved into keeping our business and personal finances separately. How do we build a habit that helps us maintain our money management as our business scales? So there are a few steps that we can follow that will cover 10 minutes of your day, 10 minutes of your month, but it's a daily habit that you can leverage. So you've chosen your financial management application. So in this case, I've highlighted we opened Wave. We open it once a day. That could be your Zibble books. That could be any other financial application that you use. At least open it once a day to have a look at the cash position of your business. Record every transaction that has taken place in the last 24 hours. Those transactions might be meals and entertainment. Those expenses might be, for instance, maintenance. It might be a purchase of an asset that you're going to use in the business. Make sure that you record every transaction that has taken place and categorize it as the expense type, or whether it's a salary that you paid, wages or transport if you've Ubered to a client, and categorize it as a billable or non-billable item as well. Right? Attach a photo of the receipt so that you've got a digital paper trail for that transaction. I've already spoken about the categorization, and in the FNB business app, you've got a built-in for FNB cardholders. You've got a built-in categorization capability where every transaction is automatically categorized based on the merchant that you've spent with. So that helps you expedite this daily habit of categorization for every transaction. And then from every week, what you do is you reconcile your bank statements to your finance application to ensure that you've got an accurate view of the transactions that you've performed and actual cash that sits in your bank account. And then on a monthly basis, run a profit and loss report. And using a financial application like Wave or Zibble Books or any one of those applications, through one click, you can run a profit and loss report that will tell you exactly what the cash position of your business is. So let's look at what an invoice, a typical invoice would look like. So you've got the name of the client in the top left-hand corner, you've got your invoice date and the invoice reference number on the top right-hand corner, coupled with the due date and when the invoice is due to be paid. Invoice reference number and the subject of the invoice listed follow on there by the line items that make up the cumulative value, the total amount of the invoice, coupled with VAT if you are VAT registered, and your company name, company banking details, and so forth. So this is an example of a template that you could use to send invoices once you've completed your piece of work, once you've delivered the project, or at the milestone that you've achieved within the life cycle of the project. Make sure that you send off that invoice at that particular point in time as agreed upon at the deal origination state. And make sure that if you have not yet received payment at the agreed upon time, so maybe if you've agreed that within the SLA of you sending the invoice, you've got a 30-day payment terms at the 50% mark, or at the 15-day mark, send a reminder that this invoice is due at the end of the month, and then 7 days prior to payment is expected, you send another reminder to say that payment is due, and make sure that you send that reminder from your finance application as opposed to from your personal account, your personal inbox, so that your client knows that this is coming through from a financial application as opposed to directly from you, and it's automated. Chase overdue invoices within 24 hours of the due date. What's also important is on your invoice, highlight that for all invoices that are overdue by a 30-day period, that they accrue interest based on the outstanding fees, unless there has some agreement that has been established between yourself and your client prior to the invoice being paid, so that you are aware that this is going to be a delayed payment that you can expect from that invoice. For all new clients or large orders, take a 50% deposit up front. That's important so you can manage the cash flow of your business. And then issue receipts whenever payments come in to ensure, for even for cash payments, issue a receipt to your client so that they can acknowledge that the payment has been received. And then lastly, number your invoices sequentially. Oftentimes in any of these applications, you can start off from a particular number that you choose to start off at. If not, the default number to start off is 001 or 0001 or something of that nature. But you can sequentially start off from any particular number. So what does SARS expect from you? Now that you've built your financial system that helps you manage the cash flow and profitability of your organization, SARS expects that you have a business income tax number. And oftentimes after you register with SIPC to get the business registration off the ground, you will immediately be issued with the tax number. So that takes care of that there. Because all business income is taxable, right? If you are earning over 2 million, more recently, South Africa has increased that number from 1 to 2 million. If you are earning more than 2 million per annum, you are required, within a 12-month period, that is, you are required to register for VAT. So you want to make sure that you do that and then submit your VAT returns biannually as well. If you employ any staff, you have to pay as you earn, right? So deducting and paying employee tax to SARS at the 7th of every month. So you need to cater for that. You need to submit your returns, as mentioned earlier, for provisional tax, and that's twice a year, in August and in February of the financial period. And then lastly, you need to ensure that you keep all income, all expenses, all payment records for 5 years, because SARS can audit at any point in time within the year, within that window of 5 years. All right, so that's important that you keep note of that there, because you don't want to encounter any penalties and fines from SARS. So now let's look at a basic profit and loss statement. So generally, you invoice your client, you complete the project, and payment comes in at the stipulated or appointed time based on the invoicing terms. That is recorded as revenue. Right? any finances coming into the business before any payments have been made, or monies received for invoiced goods or services rendered, that's classified as revenue. As soon as that income comes in, you have bills and expenses that you need to pay, or debt that needs to be settled, credit card bills and things of that nature. So you minus the direct costs of producing the goods or services, the products or services that you sell. And in this case, it's 18,200. That means that your profit, after all the costs of the goods being sold or being produced, that means that your gross profit is 30,300. And after you've subtracted all the other expenses, the operating expenses, so you've paid rent, you've paid for bandwidth or internet expenses or data, transport fees, insurance, marketing or bank fees, you are then left with your net profit or loss at the end of the month. And that is what you've made after all costs have been expensed and all costs have been removed from your revenue. And in this example, you'll see that this simple, very basic profit and loss statement means that for this month, we ended off on 15,700, which is in the profit. If it was in the loss, we'd have that bracketed in a sort of a red, a U, and that would mean that, so this means that we're in the profit for our business. So now that we've removed our operating expenses, that leaves us with understanding our net profitability position at the end of the month. And from this we can see we've removed the cost of developing our products and selling our products. We've removed our operating expenses from our business, and we are left with a profit value of 15,700. And that's the actual revenue, the actual profit that we've made after all our costs have been paid. So let's apply this principle, these financial principles, from financial literacy, from separating personal finance to understanding the difference between cash flow and profitability, and reading a basic financial statement. What does this look like in a business? And we've got Sipho running his mobile mechanics business. So he's run a vehicle repair service out of Soweto. He's had a full diary, a good reputation, and a constant bank balance problem. At the end of every month, he's done significant work because of his full calendar or full diary of working, but he could not account for where his money had gone. His diagnosis after a bookkeeping session was that he is systemically undercharging his customers for parts, meaning that he's always going to run at a loss for all parts that need to be paid for before any work can be carried out. He had estimated the part costs in his head, but not the actual cost. Because the actual costs has to include the cost of transportation to the supplier and back. And that was 40% higher than his initial estimate that it produced. So he had been running at a loss on parts for months, while his labor had covered it and had been masking the actual problem. With Wave, he was able to set up job cards and itemize every single item that goes into the job card, from his labor costs to parts to transportation, and he'd also been able to assign every receipt for the parts and the cost of those parts included into the quoted price versus the actual margin that he's made. And within 30 days, he'd able to reprice all his service packages and was able to identify a 3,800 per month profit margin without making a single extra client. So his client list hadn't changed. However, managing his finances in a very systemic manner meant that he's able to identify what his current profit margin was and determine that I need to make more profit. So I now need to, either I can make a better decision around, I need to hire an additional mechanic, I need to hire a driver so that I can get through the parts, through the service packages very quickly. But at the same time, I'm not going out to go and collect parts from the supplier. He's able to make better financial decisions for his business, or better operational decisions for his business, because financially, he's got better insight into the cost of running his organization. So as we wrap up this topic for today, there are a few things that we need to take away. Cash flow mismanagement, not bad products or services, is what destroys our businesses. And we see that statistically, 82% of South African small to medium-sized enterprises name that as the primary cause for their businesses failing. It's a cash flow mismanagement. Keep our personal and business finances separate. And there's a dedicated amount that we extract from the business on a monthly basis. And if we need to top up, we do so on a quarterly basis from the profit that the business has generated on a quarterly basis. Profit and cash flow are two different things. One tells us if the model works, which is profit, and the other tells us if we can pay our bills on time. Set aside 10 minutes of your day to record the heartbeat of your business. And the heartbeat means every single transaction that takes place in the last 24 hours, make sure that you record that, you categorize it, you make sure that you turn every single transaction that takes place into a decision that you can make financially, or rather, let me repeat that, into an insight that you can leverage to make a decision operationally. Invoice immediately, state your terms. For large orders, take 50% upfront as part of your deal construction, and then chase overdue accounts within 24 hours of non-payment. Know what SARS expects of you as a small business owner or as an entrepreneur. Keep 5 years of records and ensure that you register and submit your SARS returns or your filing returns from a taxation perspective on time. And if you employ individuals, make sure that you register for PAYE, pay as you earn, so that you submit those returns, or at least the PAYE by the 7th of every month. So what do we need to reflect on? Financial literacy might be daunting. These are 3 questions that I want you to reflect on as you take the time as part of your daily habits when trying to understand the financial position of your business. These are 3 questions that you can leverage to be honest with yourself when managing your finances. Can you say what your business has earned and what it costs you to run last month? If not, what's stopping you from knowing? Secondly, like Sipho in his mobile mechanics, where might you be under recovering costs without actually realizing it? And how would you go about finding out where you're under recovering those costs? And then lastly, what is the first money habit that you will start this week? Maybe it's a separate account, a business banking account. Maybe it's a 10-minute habit that you want to establish. Or maybe it's chasing overdue invoices. Either one of those are important starting points because that helps you manage the cash flow of your business, generate insights around the financial position of your business to help you make operational decisions. So how do we stay safe online? In this topic, the final topic in this lesson for today, we're going to dive into what are the principles and practices that we can employ to maintain our safety online, where everything that we experience today is accessible through and on the internet. We find that South African businesses and South African employees or people, we rank among the top 10 most cyber hacked countries in the world. So what does that mean? That means that we ultimately are the targets. So how do we protect ourselves? In this topic, we're going to be explaining why small businesses are prime targets for cybercrime in South Africa. We're going to identify the 5 most common threats, from phishing to making to fake supplier invoices. We're going to apply 6 practical security habits that remove most of our everyday risk. Verify any change to banking details before a payment takes place. We're going to ensure that we establish a habit as far as that's concerned. We're going to apply basic papaya duties for customer information that we hold. And then lastly, we're going to use AI tools safely and understand what that looks like to report an incident within 24 hours. But before we jump in there, I've got a short video that I'm going to take you through. And when we come back, we'll debrief the video and we'll dive into why we suffer as South Africans when it comes to cybersecurity and cyber threats.
Ladies and gentlemen, data is the new gold. We're becoming more and more involved with it in our daily lives. Whether it be the Internet of Things, self-driving cars, smart AI, or even the up-and-coming Neuralink, all of them rely on the flow of data to operate. With increasing reliance on data to drive day-to-day operations, this begs the question, how do we know that all of this data is secure and safe from the hands of hackers? This is a question that goes mostly unanswered and will be the main focus of my talk today. With cyber attacks and data breaches escalating exponentially in size and severity, neglecting cybersecurity is an issue that empowers hackers beyond anyone's wildest imaginations, and a mistake that will cost us colossally in the long run. Now, in order to truly go beyond the human, in order to truly move forward as a species, we must ensure that the tools we use to do so are safe and secure for everyone to use. Now, I would like to set the scene. I'm sure you've all seen the advanced AI models and their magical capabilities. OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google's Bard, GitHub's Copilot, you name it. Some of you might have even used it to increase your productivity tenfold. Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that you were not the only people using these to increase your productivity? As it stands, like a dog is a man's best friend, AI is a hacker's best friend. And it proves a surprisingly capable assistant in manipulating both the human and the computer. Now, this brings me to my first point, which is AI's ability to write malware and exploit code. Now, while AI models are centuries, even millennia away from actually replacing programmers, that's not to say that they aren't efficient at writing code, namely dangerous code that can be used against internet infrastructure and systems worldwide. To prove my point, I asked a nondescript AI to write me malware. Now, disclaimers, do not under any circumstances do this. This is for educational purposes only. That being said, this is its response, and here is what it returned. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this right here is a polymorphic self-encrypting virus. What this virus does, for those of you who are unfamiliar with computer terminology, is it is a virus that can change its appearance at will, which makes it very, very difficult to track and basically makes it go undetected by most antivirus solutions today. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that this was created in seconds by a bored high schooler. Imagine what a hacker with more ingenuity and more time on their hands can do. Is this terrifying you yet? It gets worse. Consider the fact that most companies nowadays neglect cybersecurity. Yes, even the major ones. For example, Toyota in May 2023 released the fact that they had been the victim of a decade-long data breach which compromised millions of user accounts. With cyber attacks increasing rampantly and becoming much more savage, and companies stagnating and refusing to improve their cyber policies, this stands to lead to a cataclysm, ladies and gentlemen, in which your data is the victim. Now, the intrinsic value of AI to a hacker is not in its ability to write bad code. It is actually in its ability to manipulate people. Social engineering is a class of attack that is becoming increasingly more prevalent, with 41% of major breaches happening due to this type of attack. Now, it is an attack which involves a hacker manipulating a human and coercing them into doing their bidding. So AI can also help with this in a very, very efficient manner. Now let's take a look at this from the hands of a hacker, right? So here is our victim, John Doe. So we want his bank details. the first step is we basically compile a list of public information. So we found online via social media and other forums that he's 23, he's a junior analyst, he's a bit of a hustler, and he's kind of struggling with his finances. So we use this and feed it to this AI model, once again, nondescript for legal reasons, and it returns a very, very efficient, very, very convincing script over here, which would be sent in an email to him, which would get him to click on a malicious link. Now, this email prompt uses time urgency and introduces consequences in order to get him to click on a link. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might think that, oh yeah, this is just a simple scam email. I won't fall for this. Well, I have two things to say to that. Both of them indicate that you are wrong. First off, it is becoming increasingly harder for people to tell the difference between AI-generated content and real content. And second off, a 2021 study conducted by IT firm AAG looked into phishing attacks and found that the success rate jumped from 18% to 51% when the attacks were personalized, like we did here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is a coin toss probability. Do you want the integrity of your data reliant on a coin toss? Now, some of you might roll your eyes at the mention of your data, think it's completely different, completely separate from who you are as a person, and think it has no bearing on your life. Well, let's contextualize this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's play a game. Raise your hands if you have bought something online at any point in time. Raise your hands if you have private documents on your computer or if you have done something private online. Raise your hands, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a smart device such as an Amazon Alexa or Google Home sitting in your house right now. The majority of you said yes, ladies and gentlemen. All this data act as strings to which a sufficiently skilled hacker can control you like a puppet. As a result, security of your data matters. Now, we've kind of looked at how exactly hackers can use modern technologies to kind of wreak havoc, start chaos. But one thing I think that is even more important is, how do we fight back? Where do we go from here? Simple. We fight fire with fire. So you can use these AI-generated models as well to read Kafkaesque, absurdly long terms and conditions to actually make informed decisions based on how companies handle your data. This is a very efficient tool as it allows you to get to what matters most. Furthermore, with the rise of social engineering attacks, you can also use generative AI to detect these social engineering attacks, as these models are very efficient at detecting what they have generated. Furthermore, if you are a programmer, you can also use generative AI to write mundane boilerplate code and templates so you can focus on the bigger picture as a whole, system security, scalability, and efficiency. All of this combines to make a very, very, very robust cyber strategy and secure your data pretty efficiently. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I've said before, in order to truly go beyond the human, cybersecurity must be considered. It is something that is beyond every single one of us, and it is something that we are all responsible for. In order to usher in a new age, we must make sure that the tools used to do so are safe. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Great. So now that you've taken a listen to this video, why are we the primary target? Right? We experience 577 cyber hacks per hour in South Africa. We are number 3 in the global ranking of cybercrime. And an estimated value of 2.2 billion rand is suffered in South African businesses as a result of a lack of security and a lack of awareness around how to manage the security elements that surround our business. So why are we the primary targets, right? Large organizations have dedicated IT teams to ensure that the security of their business IP, their business's data, and their business's finances are protected. They have enterprise-grade firewalls that they've established. And there's 24/7 monitoring. And oftentimes, small businesses and entrepreneurs that are building their businesses don't have the luxury of a dedicated team to manage the IT infrastructure and establish these enterprise-grade firewalls to protect the data that they collect from their client base. Cyber criminals know this, right? And they also know that one successful attack on a small business is low risk. That most do not report an incident. Most small businesses don't report incidents that might take place or pursue recovery. And then lastly, WhatsApp and email are the primary communication tool of South African entrepreneurs. And they are also the primary attack mechanism that cyber criminals use to engage in conversation and to extract core data from a vishing perspective and a phishing perspective that allows a loophole into the enterprise, or the organizations or the businesses ecosystem to extract credentials and to extract customer-related data and use that maliciously for their benefit. So there are 5 threats that I want you to know that you need to employ to ensure that you defend against them. 1, it's phishing. Fake emails or messages appearing to come from the likes of SARS, especially around the income tax disclosure periods. So in and around July through to the end of October, it's important to note that you'll always get SMSs coming through from SARS, or coming through rather from cyber criminals, posing and positioning themselves as SARS and clicking on these fake links, in acting on behalf of a bank, asking you for an OTP or anything of that nature. They disguise themselves as trusted players in the market based on the interactions that you have with these players. So look out for phishing attempts. Ransomware, malicious software that locks all your files and demands payments, and upon that payment coming through, that you are then that your files are then released. A single click of a malicious activity can cost you your entire business. Business email compromise, a criminal that impersonates you, and we're seeing that it's not just business email, but it's business WhatsApp. You're seeing all the more WhatsApp profiles are being impersonated these days. Criminals impersonate you, they impersonate your colleagues, they impersonate suppliers, and they act as if they are those type of individuals or vectors or players, and that's really growing and it's ramping up quite aggressively in South Africa. So look out for that. Social media scams, fake business opportunity posts, brand impersonations, WhatsApp group infiltrations, AI hacking is also on the rise, and all of those scams are coming up very, very quickly. And it's important that you build a habit of verifying the accounts, verifying the agents, verifying the impersonations to ensure that you're not being scammed. And then lastly, fake supplier invoices. Criminals with access to your emails understand exactly who you engage with from a supplier and a vendor point of view. So they could hack into your account, review your emails, received and sent, and then create a real looking invoice that looks like it's come from a supplier and send it through a fake account. And without you verifying the sender, you'll then make payment into a fake supply invoice which has different banking details, and ultimately you lose income and revenue. Right? So look out for those. What could we employ to protect ourselves against these attacks? Create strong and unique passwords and use a password manager, right? Like Bitwarden, that is free for you to use. On certain devices, there are password managers that natively are available for you to use, like Google Password Manager and Apple Passwords and so forth. And you can use those applications websites to also create very strong and secure passwords. Set up two-factor authentication on your email, on your banking, and on all key accounts, right? Whether it's your customer relationship management application, your finance applications, your banking apps, and your emails. And always recognize that your bank or these applications will never ask you for an OTP via a phone call or through an SMS or anything like that. I think this is oftentimes a security habit that we overlook. And something very simple. Think before you click. You might think to yourself, yes, I do that. If that was the case, maybe not for us in the room, but for people that are in our communities, we oftentimes click on these links in a very unexpected manner. We don't intend on clicking on the links, but because we are so very quick to click on our links natively on our devices through SMSs or through our engagements through our mobile phones, we, in a very unexpected manner, click on these messages and read it, make sense of what's being told to us, and we make the mistake of clicking on an embedded link without verifying what that link actually is, or without peeking into the link. It takes you directly to the website, and before we know it, there's a Trojan horse embedded in that URL, and we suffer from credential leakage and things of that nature. Verify banking detail changes. So before paying any invoice with changing banking details, we verify that the banking details that we have in our finance applications are the same banking details that we have on the invoice. And if those reconcile, then we verify them. We could also do so by calling our clients or our vendors and suppliers to verify that those banking details are correct. Secure your Wi-Fi or your internet security. So change your default Wi-Fi password. That's important to do. Use WPA2 or WPA3 as a masking on top of your bandwidth or top of your network, and then avoid accessing your finance applications through public open Wi-Fi networks, because all your traffic is pushed through an open Wi-Fi network. There's no security on an open Wi-Fi network. You don't want to be opening up your banking app or accessing your banking website on an open Wi-Fi network where all the traffic gets exposed to the internet. You want to make sure you go through a VPN if you are using a public Wi-Fi network. And then lastly, make sure that you regularly back up your business data in at least 2 locations. You want to make sure you do that, right? So set a recovery test quarterly. And this gives you the opportunity to eliminate ransomware attacks that might take place in your business, right? From a Poppy perspective, we've discussed Poppy quite extensively over the course of not just this module, but across all the other modules that we've discussed so far from module 1 through to module 3. And why that's important, because in the digital domain, we've got access to computing customer relationship information and customer management data a lot more efficiently than we used to do that in the past. So let's recap what the Poppy legislation is. It's a law that has been put in place to protect yourself and your customers and your clients for non-compliance of, or mismanagement rather, of your client and your customer relationship data. You can face penalties for non-compliance of up to 10 million rand or up to 10 years imprisonment. And that applies to every single business that collects, stores, or uses the personal information of their customers or clients, such as names, emails, phone numbers, or purchase history, and uses that in a way that you haven't disclosed that you would use that information to your customers and clients. Right? So if it's not just a law, if it is a law rather and not a suggestion, what does it require of you and your business? It requires that you collect personal information that you actually need. So don't collect customer data or client data just in case, because that's not a valid reason. Secondly, Tell your customers exactly why you are collecting that information and use plain language when doing so. Store personal information securely. Ensure that it's behind encryption, it's password protected, and it's backed up. And as we've seen in the previous slide, make sure that your backups are stored in 2 different locations and updated on a quarterly basis or regularly. Never share customer data with third parties without explicit consent. And then if your data is breached, notify the information regulator and the affected parties within a reasonable time frame. Ensure that you do so almost immediately, and take note that this law came into play in July 2021, and it is imperative that we abide by that from a small business perspective. How do we use AI safely when responding to customers in a very efficient manner, considering that we've got the POPI legislation that we need to abide by from a law or legislative perspective? So 1, never paste customer names, ID numbers, banking details, or sensitive data into any AI tool unless you've read its data policy. I almost want to go on a rule of thumb here and say that don't ever paste any financial data into the chat of your prompt, because that data will always be stored in the memory of the large language model. If you're using a free large language model, not a paid version, then that data that's in the prompt will be exposed to the open internet, and anybody is able to access that information, especially cyber criminals, because they actively searching for personal information that's been put into a prompt. So make sure that you don't do that. Use AI tools for using your personal business account, not a shared or public account. Treat AI-generated content like any other digital content. It can be seen, it can be cached, it can be exposed to the internet, and it can be used to train and improve the large language model's efficacy and context. And then lastly, free AI tools have no privacy policy and are not safe for business data. And that is why I pointed out that, don't paste any customer relationship data or sensitive information or financial data or credentials into the prompt of your conversation that you're having with a large language model. If you're going to be using a large language model for your business, let's make sure that we use a paid for version and not the free versions of these large language models. If you have been targeted or attacked, what can we do? Stop all activity on the compromised device immediately. Change your password on all connected accounts from a different device. And oftentimes when you change your passwords, you'll be prompted with an action to log out from any other device. Whenever you change your passwords, log out of any other device. I know it's easy to just stay logged in because you don't want to use that password again. But if you're using a password manager, you are able to use either facial recognition or biometrics in order to create a pass key that helps you to log in using a very personal, very secure way of logging in on multiple different devices. So please log out of devices whenever you change your passwords. Report to your bank's fraud line immediately if any financial accounts might be compromised. And then lastly, report to South African Police Services, SAPS, and the Cyber Crime Hub, and document anything that is related to the event, such as the date, the experience, the time that it took place, the messages and the screenshots. Make sure that you collect and compile as much data as you possibly can about the crime to ensure that the South African Police Services, as well as the Cyber Crime Hub, are able to act on your behalf when pursuing the criminal. And that brings us to the end of not just this topic, but this lesson. And there are a few takeaways that I want us to think about. Small businesses are targeted because they have no dedicated IT team that a large corporate entity might have. We encounter 577 attacks an hour, And last year, we suffered 2.2 billion rand in cybercrime activity. There are 5 threats that you need to look out for on a regular basis. It's phishing, ransomware, business email compromise, WhatsApp impersonations or social media impersonations and scams, and then fake supplier invoices. An additional one that I want you to think about as far as social media scams is deep fakes. So when logging on to an online meeting, an AI agent might log into the meeting and impersonate someone else as a deep fake video. And that might build trust with you because you recognize the person on the other side of the screen, but actually it's not. So you need to look out for deep fakes. So develop 6 habits that can remove almost all of the risk. Create unique passwords, enable 2-factor authentication, be careful when clicking, always second guess every single click, every single link and URL that you see in either an email or message, whether it's WhatsApp or a text message and SMS. Be careful when clicking, verify your bank bank changes rather, and then secure your Wi-Fi using WPA2 or WPA3. Stay away from public Wi-Fi networks, and if you do and have no choice but to use a public Wi-Fi network, make sure that you're going through a VPN, and then back up all your business data in at least 2 different locations regularly. Whenever you have to pay an invoice or a supplier invoice rather, make sure that you review the banking details on those invoices. And oftentimes a phone call is the most effective way of confirming those banking details, especially if you didn't expect this invoice to come through. So make sure that you review and evaluate the changing of bank details. Make sure that those banking details on your financial system and your bank account reconcile with the supplier invoice. If your suppliers change those invoice details, make a phone call to confirm that it's changed as opposed to just an email. Recognize that papaya is not a suggestion, but it's a law that we have to abide by, and there's up to 10 years imprisonment or 10 million rand in a fine that we can suffer. And lastly, never paste customer data, financial data, banking information into an AI tool, especially if it's a free AI tool that you're using. Report any incident to the cybercrime hub within 24 hours to ensure that you are protected. And also, while you're at it, make sure that you collect as much information about the crime as possible so the South African Police Service can assist you as well. So as we bring this to a close, there are 3 questions that I want you to reflect on as usual. Take note of these and act with intention when reflecting on these questions. Of the 6 cybersecurity or security habits, which of the 6 are you already doing? And which are the biggest gap right now that you need to close? Secondly, if a familiar supplier emailed you new banking details today, what exactly would you do before paying? Right? Would you just email? Would you send a WhatsApp, or would you make a phone call? And then lastly, what customer information do you hold? And what would the papaya legislation compliance require you to change this month? Are there any changes that you need to do considering the data that you hold? And what are the reflections that you need to take stock of in terms of storing that information? So as we bring this lesson and this module to a close today, I want you to reflect on these 5 statements that are on screen and really diagnose where you are at this point in time. Which of the 6 topics that we've spoken about across this module produce the most immediate insight or discomfort for you? And it's important that if you are feeling discomfort, don't judge yourself against that, right? Discomfort is usually a signal that it matters, so don't resist that. Name 1 communication change that you will make within the next 48 hours and be specific about that. Name 1 financial practice that you will start this week. Also, once again, be specific about it. If it's opening up a new Wave account, or it's setting up a new FNB business account, you want to make sure that it's a practice that you are doing, and then you're going to build upon that practice to ensure that you're able to set a new habit that helps you scale out your business as your client base grows. What's the one cybersecurity action that you're going to complete today before the day ends? What's that one cybersecurity action you're going to take? Maybe it's setting up two-factor authentication across all your devices. Maybe that's creating a much stronger encrypted password. And then which topic content would be most useful for you to share with someone in your business or in your network? And who would you share that with? And with that, I want to say thank you for your time today. Once again, I'm Devon Pablo. I will see you in the next module next time.
All right, so awesome stuff, as always, from Devon. Thank you so much, Devon, for that beautiful lesson. All right, so that completes Module 4 on the 21st Century Work Readiness. Remember, your assessments are now available on the LMS, so head over to the LMS, and best of luck with your assessments. Now, Devon will be back with us very soon to start on Module 5 of Digital Skills and Entrepreneurship, focusing on community impact and inclusive growth. You don't want to miss out for any moment of this world. See you guys next time. My name is Karabo Mohole. Peace.